Hello, everyone, and welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Sling TV. I am Mike Barner. He is Kirien Sprecher, and we come to you every Wednesday to give you the information that you need to win your fantasy basketball leagues. Kirien, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty great. Moving into a new apartment under a new Wi-Fi. Hopefully, Mike, everything goes as planned today.
Man, look at this. He's already got the background set up in there. Is that a Scottie Pippen poster?
It is.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. So today we're going to start off with the new usual news and notes segments. Then we've got something fun planned for you in segment 2. But first, let's start right off with the big Anthony Davis injury update. Now, yesterday, earlier in the day, it was reported that he was going to need surgery on his hand. He's going to miss most of the remainder of the regular season, but the Mavericks were still going to try and trade him. I don't get how that would be working. But it was then last night the team announced that he is not going to have surgery and he is going to be reevaluated. It could be back in 6 weeks. This is good news for the Mavericks' efforts to try and trade him. But from a fantasy perspective, I guess now he goes from a drop to trade him for anything you can get. Right, Kirien?
Yes, absolutely right on the fantasy side of things. The way this news came out was very strange. And Shams was the one who broke both of the stories, right? So I don't know who got in his ear after that first one. Probably someone close to Davis that was like, hey, we still are trying to trade this guy. And coincidentally, that 6 week timeline would kind of coincide exactly with going to a new team. So it's kind of funny how that came to fruition there. But yeah, fantasy side, I think this has been the case for a while now with Anthony Davis. If you have him, as soon as you acquire him, whether it's a trade or whatever, you're trying to get rid of him after the first few good games he has. And I don't see that happening for a while now. So I think you're just going to have to sell low or just, bite the bullet here. The only good thing I can get out of this situation with Anthony Davis is it's a left hand finger injury, right? So theoretically, he should be still in the gym. He can be doing one-handed shots. He can be doing form shooting. He can be, dribbling with his right hand. He can be getting his conditioning in. So if and when he is cleared, he should be ready to go for like a full workload right away. But that's a big if, Mike.
Yeah. And then what contending team is going to trade for him? Because he's going to want an extension too. Like any team with a smart front office is not going to want him. The whole situation is just, obviously everybody, roasted the Mavs when they made the Luka trade, and it just keeps getting worse and worse every day. And everybody could see this coming except for the one guy that obviously thought this was a good trade. But so for I'm trying to think of like some comps, like who would I try to trade Anthony Davis for? I think Nikola Vucevic is probably shooting too high. I don't know if I could get him in a trade for Anthony Davis. John Collins maybe is kind of, that might be too low. Maybe somewhere in the middle there. Kirien,
yeah, I think those are both fair options. Look, this is going to sound rude, but like anybody that has a fantasy pulse right now, anybody that is playing consistent minutes, like you said, John Collins, that's an under the radar. Maybe someone picked him up off of waivers, and they're just like, oh, I could use a high upside play for the rest of the season. I would much rather have John Collins than Anthony Davis right now. It's anybody that is playing consistent minutes is going to be a better option. Noah Clowney, like I don't
know. No nets, Kirien. We can't do that. All right. So now we move on to some more injury news. Deni Avdija did not play Tuesday against the Warriors. That was his first missed game of the season for a guy who's been one of the biggest breakouts in fantasy. Some good news for the Trailblazers. Drew Holiday, he did play again. It was his second game back from injury. Came off the bench, played 21 minutes, had 12 points and 8 rebounds. Well, it was an ugly loss for the Trailblazers, but nice to see him back. There's no real concrete timetable here for Avdija, young player. It's a back injury, which tend to be tricky. But if he does miss any more time, Shaedon Sharpe and Caleb Love, who's been really good at carrying, probably the main beneficiaries, right?
Totally agree. Avdija left Sunday's game against the Knicks with just a few minutes left. Seemed like it was going to be fine. Seemed like it was just the game was kind of out of hand. He was going to be fine. Misses another game. I put it here in my notes. As us old heads know, back injuries are not to be messed with, right?
That's right.
You touched on that. So this is something where it seems like he's day-to-day. But like you said, Holiday is back. Caleb Love is playing really well. So maybe Portland plays it safe. Trailblazers are still in the playoff mix. I will flip this to you. Like, do you think if Avdija tries to play through this back injury and he kind of struggles a little bit, does that hurt his or his All-Star game case more, or would it be worse for him if he just completely sits out for like a week or two?
If he completely sits out for a week or two, that's not going to help his cause. But I think he's got to be an all-star. He's got to be. He's been so good, so good. I mean, I don't think there's anything he could do in my eyes that would make him not an all-star.
Yeah, dude. If anybody and if anybody is questioning Mike right now and saying, "Oh, look at the West. There's a lot of good players in the Western Conference that don't make All-Star games." Jamal Murray, has never made an All-Star game. Like it happens. But go and look at Deni Avdija's game logs, and like you said, only missed one game this season, and there is a ton of prolific performances. I think I'm with you that he should be an All-Star no matter what. But I think if he sits out for a week or two, I don't know if. I guess voting ends soon, so voting ends in a couple of days. So maybe that question is totally irrelevant, anyways.
Also, whether he is an all-star and whether he should be an all-star are two different things. A lot of times, these guys without the big name value, they get pushed to the side. So, and to me, he is, but to others, he might not be. Now, here's a bit of a weird storyline, Kirien, that maybe not everyone knows about. So yesterday, the Timberwolves played the Bucks. Without Anthony Edwards and without Rudy Gobert, the Timberwolves still smoked the Bucks. It was an embarrassing performance from the Bucks in that regard. Anthony Edwards, it was the third game in 4 nights for the Timberwolves. He was out with right foot injury management, so no concerns there. However, the Gobert one's the one I want to talk about here. He served a 1-game suspension because he received his 6th flagrant foul point of the season. We are not even halfway through the NBA season right now. Every flagrant foul point that Gobert receives from now to the end of the season, he receives a minimum of a 2-game suspension. So, Kirien, we could be getting big guys sometimes are unlucky when it comes to flagrant fouls. Just by putting their arms up and someone coming in the lane, they can get one. What do you think if you rostered Rudy Gobert right now? What do you think about this scenario for him moving forward?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm nervous. I had him in a league, and I'm nervous.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. And like you said, sometimes they're just a half a step slow trying to move their feet, and it looks way worse than it is. Not everybody is Draymond Green, where you're like, oh yeah, he intentionally committed that flagrant foul. But yeah, I think it's one of those cases where if you went back and you looked at Gobert's history, there's probably long stretches in his career where he has gone without getting a flagrant foul. And so I think if he's aware of that it's not something that you need to be too concerned with. Like trading him right now, trying to trade him just because you're worried about a potential 2-game absence in the future might seem like a little dramatic to me. But it's one of those things where you can't do anything if that starts to pop up. And, maybe if it happens once, then he gets even more frustrated when he's on the court and happens again. That's a tough question. I don't think I would be like so worried that I'm trying to sell low. Like I still think it would need to be like a fair trade offer for me to get off of him, because it's still a hypothetical or a potential that he misses games. It's not an absolute at this point.
He's definitely not a rush out and trade him guy, but I would be fielding offers more now than I would before I learned this information, because because this is not something that's up for debate either. He's going to get it. If he gets the flagrant foul, unless they rescind it, unless the league rescinds the flagrant foul, if he gets one, he's going to miss 2 games. Well, what if we're in the fantasy playoffs and it's Monday and he fouls somebody and then he misses the next 2 games of the week? That could happen. And it's not like his production is so far crazy good this season that he's like, oh, I can't trade Rudy Gobert. He's he's okay. He's a reliable center. He's not a guy you want to be your top center on your team, but as a second center, if you're in a 2-center league, he's fine. So I'd shop him, not aggressively, but I would shop him. Unfortunately, I have him in a league where you can't make trades, so I'm stuck with him. But if you're in a league where you can, I would shop him and see what's out there. So we've given out a lot of bad news. We have some more bad news, but let's do a little good news here first. The Orlando Magic are playing the Memphis Grizzlies in Berlin tomorrow. And Franz Wagner is not listed on the injury report. He's missed over a month with an ankle injury. He is expected to return. He's probably going to play limited minutes, at least for a game or 2, I would assume, especially with them traveling overseas. and playing in Berlin. Jalen Suggs is still out, so probably no big concern here for Anthony Black, but good news that Franz Wagner is coming back, Kirien.
Yep, absolutely. The Magic, played this pretty close to the vest with Wagner's ankle injury. He's missed a lot of time for an ankle injury. They said, last week that he was going to return at some point this week, like in the current week, and then that week came and went, and there wasn't really a substantial update, so we weren't really sure. However, the rumblings around the Orlando have always been that Wagner, who is, German, him and his brother both play for the German national team, was targeting this game in Berlin as, maybe he wanted to get some game time in before this game, but he was always going to play in this game. That was the end goal for him and the team. We'll see how many minutes he's able to play. Obviously, with Jalen Suggs still out, the Magic need a punch. They're one of 4 teams that are separated by 2 games in the standings right now. So while it would be nice to be like, hey, let's ease Wagner back in, they're in the heat of it right now. The Orlando Magic, the Cleveland Cavaliers, Philadelphia 76ers, and Miami Heat, they're in a playoff race right now. They I know we're a long way away, halfway through the season, a long way away, but all of these games, this is a playoff chase for those 4 teams right now. They're a one bad week, and they go from top 4 seed hosting a playoff round to playing in that play-in tournament. So Wagner's return is going to be huge. He needs to be huge. He was really good to start the season. The minutes restriction thing is kind of iffy for me. Obviously, he was healthy all season, but he has played fewer than 30 minutes only one time this season, and that was the game that he got injured in. So it's going to be really interesting to see if he is restricted, how they ease him back in, because they're just not used to him playing, 20, 25 minutes a night. Maybe it's a lot of De Silva, obviously with Suggs still out, Anthony Black is going to be a huge contributor. Noah Penda has been pretty good for the Magic in a limited role, but if I have Franz in some leagues, I'm going to be playing him tomorrow. He's going to be in my starting lineup, and we're just going to see what happens.
Now, just before we went live here on YouTube, the Grizzlies gave us some injury updates on a few players. So they're playing the Magic in that game Thursday. But unfortunately, they're going to be playing without 3 guys that they've been without for a while. Zach Edey, they said he will be reevaluated in 6 weeks. You don't like to hear that. Brandon Clark is expected to be out 4 to 6 more weeks. And Scottie Pippen Jr. expected to be out 4 to 6 more weeks. So no good updates on any of those guys there. If anything, that probably pushes them even more into trying to trade Ja Morant. But the good news, if you're looking for big man, Santi Aldama, him and Jock Landale here, without Edey and without Clark for at least the next 4 weeks, maybe 6, maybe more, those 2 guys have a clear runway to plenty of playing time here.
Absolutely. I was high on Santi Aldama coming into the season because of injuries to Brandon Clark and Jaren Jackson was hurt too, but he eventually came back, and Zach Edey, obviously. So yeah, I love Santi Aldama's skill set for fantasy. It just kind of seems to be hit or miss some nights. I totally agree with your idea that this means Ja Morant's almost definitely going to get traded. Zach Edey, as soon as that news was dropped, he was dropped in 3 or 4 of my fantasy leagues. So I think that's pretty telling. Who knows if he's even back? You're already probably going to be in the fantasy playoffs by now. I think that's the right move, moving off from Zach Edey. Obviously, Brandon Clark is a fun player. Every time he's healthy, you're like, oh, you watch a game with Brandon Clark, you're like, wow, look at him. But and then he never stays healthy enough. So that's just really tough in that situation. And then the Scottie Pippen injury, I don't want to say good news, but that does mean that this Cam Spencer journey is just going to keep on continuing, especially with Ja Morant potentially being traded and no idea when Ty Jerome's coming back.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Cam Spencer in our next segment. But before we do that, a word from our friends at Dabble. Dabble isn't just another DFS app. It's the ultimate social platform where you can connect with other fantasy sports lovers. Dabble lets you win big. You can win up to 5,000 times your money this basketball season. Starting with Dabble is easy. New users get $25 free when signing up. No deposit necessary. Check out the link in the episode description below to download Dabble now. All right, now we have reached the fun portion of the podcast. Kirien, we're going streaking. We're going to run through the quad and into the gymnasium. Come on, everybody. No, we're not doing that kind of streaking from old school for all you youngins out there that don't know where that came from. We're going to talk about some players who are currently on hot or cold streaks and what to expect from them moving forward. So first and foremost, Kirien, let's start out with Darius Garland, who, if everyone remembers, was a buy low candidate that Kirien talked about early in the season. Darius Garland has played in 17 straight games. He also averaged 32 minutes during that span, produced averages of 19.9 points, 7.1 rebounds, and 2.43 pointers, shot 48.3% from the field. So, Kirien, do we finally feel good and safe about Darius Garland?
Yes, I'm definitely starting to feel good and safe about Darius Garland. I know you did the 6 or 17 straight games played, but the reason he's played in 17 straight games is he's playing really well. Over the last 13, if I shrink your timeline a little bit here, over his last 13 games, 20 points, 7 assists, 52, 42, 87 shooting splits. That's the Darius Garland we know and love. So I'm confident that he's back, and this is going to be a sign of things to come. We've seen him do this in previous years too. However, the Cavs are still middling. 5-5 in their last 10. They just lost to Utah on Monday. Like I said, they're in that group with the Magic. They need to win and win now. So we'll see what happens in terms of the win-loss column. But Darius Garland is back, and it doesn't seem like he's going anywhere.
Yeah, I definitely feels very comfortable with Garland moving forward. The buy low opportunity has closed. That window is slammed shut. It's locked. If you want Garland in your fantasy league, you're gonna have to pay up. Another guy. This is even more surprising. Zion Williamson has played in 16 straight games for the Pelicans. That included both legs of 3 back-to-back sets. During that span, averaged 22.5 points, just under 6 rebounds, just over 3 assists, and shot just over 61% from the field. Kirien, is Zion Williamson's value at the tippity top, at its peak right now?
Yes, I just have sell high in caps on my notes here. You mentioned the 3 back-to-backs. He had a stretch of 8 straight games where he had at least 20 points, and 4 of those games were, either the front half or the back half of a back-to-back set. So similar to Garland, this isn't a case where Zion is healthy and they just need minutes out of him. He's playing in all of these games because he's playing really well. And that's a great sign of how healthy he feels and how the team feels about him in the rotation with these young guys. However, with saying that, I like I said, sell high. The Pelicans are 10 games out of a play-in spot. That is 10 games. You have to go on a 2-week winning streak and then have all of the teams ahead of you lose. Maybe it's possible. I do really like this team. They're really fun for fantasy, right? Tuning in, watching Zion, Derek Queen, Trey Murphy, Jeremiah Fears. Like, this is a fun team. But trade deadline, silly season are going to hit very, very hard. So, yes, Zion is playing really well. He's playing in games. But like you said, the value's at the absolute peak. Try to get off now.
This is the point of old school where, like, Frank's going streaking and his wife pulls up against him in the car and she's like, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "Oh, we're going streaking. We're all going." "Who?" "Oh, everyone's right behind me." No, let's get realistic, Frank. Get in the car. If you have Zion, get him out of the car. Yeah. This is the time to trade him. So get Zion on the trade block in your league and see what you can get. Another guy who's currently streaking is Ivica Zubac, and not for good reasons. He's only averaged 11.2 points and 8.7 rebounds over 6 games since returning from injury. He played 27 or fewer minutes in 3 of those 6 games. Now, he did come back from injury much sooner than expected, so that could play into it a little bit here. Now he's questionable for Wednesday's game against the Wizards with a left ankle injury. So the Clippers are not having a great season. What are we doing here? Do you want to buy low on Zubac right now, Kirien?
I would be interested in buying low on Zubac. Like you said, the Clippers aren't having a great season overall, but they are hot recently with Kawhi Leonard and James Harden. They're 8-2 in their last 10. So with Zubac back, they haven't really needed him to be the producer that he was early in the season. They have Kawhi, they have James Harden. John Collins is playing well. They're winning games. This new injury is a little concerning. In terms of wanting to go out, I would wait for him to, be removed from the injury report before I go and target him again. But I do think there's a case to be made where, the Clippers could still make the playoffs. They need to make the playoffs. That's going to be the ultimate goal. So I think if you can acquire Zubac at a low value right now, I think that's the smart move. We know what he can be when he's at full strength, and that's clearly just not the case right now. And it doesn't need to be the case right now because they're winning games. They're going to need him eventually when Kawhi and Kawhi falls off of this insanely hot streak that he's on.
Yeah, I'm okay buying low on Zubac. This ankle injury, I wouldn't be surprised if he misses tonight's game. I mean, they're playing the Wizards, so it might be a situation where they just hold him out as a precaution. John Collins has been pretty good. Brook Lopez is hit or miss, but John Collins has been pretty good. It's not like the Wizards have a ton of size. I mean, they're playing Alex Sarr at the 5, Marvin Bagley. Those are guys that John Collins could play, no problem. So maybe you miss a game here with Zubac, but I'd be okay buying low with him. I think better days are coming. I mean, I don't think you could trade Anthony Davis. Maybe you trade Anthony Davis plus something, Anthony Davis plus like Kobe White or something for Zubac. I mean, that could be something to think about, right?
I would love to make that trade. You made you kind of struck a chord when you're talking about, resting because they're playing the Wizards. Like, I get that you think you can win the game against the Wizards without your best players, but us fantasy managers, we want our guys playing against the Wizards.
Get in there. Play the Wizards. That's right. Play the Wizards. Now, another guy, this guy has been unbelievable. Peyton Watson is averaging 24.6 points, 6.9 rebounds, 3.3 assists, 1.3 steals, 1.1 blocks, and 2.4 3-pointers over his last 8 games. He has been incredible with Jokic out. Valanciunas was expected to step up, and then he got hurt in the very first game. Deron Holmes has not been great. Zeke Naji, he's been hit or miss. We're seeing the Nuggets play a lot of small lineups right now with Aaron Gordon back. He can play the 5. They got tons and tons of minutes here for Watson. What do you think of the current hot streak that Peyton Watson's on?
I absolutely love it. Obviously my Peyton Watson takes earlier in the season when just there was one injury in, just when Christian Brown was injured, I was like, yeah, let's pump the brakes on Peyton Watson. And now everybody's injured and Peyton Watson has turned into an absolute star. He's a must start player this week and next week. Christian Brown may be back this week. Cameron Johnson may be back next week. Nikola Jokic may be back before January's over. That's a lot of maybes and a lot of ifs, right? So just keep riding this hot streak. I think, maybe when we get closer to Jokic's return date, maybe you can try to sell high on Peyton Watson. But right now, I don't think anybody is going to give you a solid return on Peyton Watson. I think everybody's kind of going to be like, oh no, Peyton Watson, like it's a nice run. It's a nice run. It's a nice run. So you might as well just take advantage of the nice run while it's happening, because you're not going to be able to trade Franz Wagner for Peyton Watson right now. And Peyton Watson's probably going to be the better producer over the next couple of weeks while Franz, gets back to 100%.
Yeah, I was working on a waiver wire column that's going to come out tomorrow. And I mean, this is Yahoo, so the ownership percentages are a little crazy. But he's only rostered in 41% of Yahoo leagues. So that even shows you that in other leagues, he's not. But that just goes to show you, like, if you're playing on that format, take a look, because for at least the next 2 to 3 weeks, he's going to be great. And so let's say Jokic comes back. Well, guess what? Aaron Gordon is no spring chicken. Yeah. Tim Hardaway Jr. is no spring chicken. I mean, these are a lot of guys that get hurt often. So there's probably always going to be one guy down to where Watson's going to get plenty of minutes. So he's not someone I'd be, like you said, that if you have him, just enjoy it. This is one of those things where you squeeze as much juice out of the orange as you can get, and you just enjoy it. And then if everything, breaks right for the Nuggets and everybody's healthy at once, and you get a 2-week stretch where Watson's playing between 20 and 25 minutes and not doing as much, then maybe you drop him. Yeah. But right now, just enjoy it. And our last one, we hinted at him in our last segment. Cam Spencer has gone 13 straight games with at least 5 assists. During that span, he averaged 13 points, 3.6 rebounds, 8.2 assists, and 2.3 3-pointers. Now, if you watch Grizzlies games, Cam Spencer, in just his second season in the league, is not shy about shooting, okay? He looks very comfortable. We talked about all these injuries on the Grizzlies, the Ja Morant situation. I'm sure if the Grizzlies can get anything decent, they're probably going to trade him, because at this point, he's worn out his welcome. So Cam Spencer is a guy that I would definitely want. Scottie Pippen's not going to be back for at least 4 weeks. Ty Jerome, there's been nothing positive on him. So this is a Cam Spencer show, Kirien.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a question on Twitter yesterday, talking about they wanting to move off of Trae Young, right? And I fully understand that rationale. I will say that article that Joshua Robbins wrote that was, on Bleacher or, got picked up by all of the Twitter accounts. Never in that article did he say Trae Young isn't going to play this season or Trae Young is going to, miss 95% of the games. All he said was, the Wizards are going to let him get back to 100%. They're going to let him move to a new city. They're going to let him get comfortable in a new home. They're going to let him get comfortable with his new teammates, let him get healthy, and then they're going to reintegrate him and see what they have with this young core. It would, I'm not saying that just because it would be malpractice that it's not going to happen. We saw what happened with Anthony Davis and Luka Doncic. Like there is malpractice in the NBA on a daily basis, so maybe it happens, but it would be malpractice to go and make this trade and then not have an extended stretch of games with Trae Young playing with Trey Johnson, playing with Bub Carrington, playing with Keyshawn George. I still think Trae Young is going to play this season. How relevant he is in fantasy is up for debate for sure. It's going to be a matter of how many games he plays, right? If he's one of the best per game producers that we've ever seen, right? So if he's playing, he's going to be strong value. We just don't know how many games he's going to be played. With that said, the person on Twitter was asking, I want to get off of Trae Young, Cam Spencer, Reed Shepherd, or Yegor Doyman. And I had a really tough time between those three. I think Yegor is the probably the safest because we almost know that the Nets are going to tank at the end of the season, right? And they're going to let their rookie point guard get a bunch of usage. Cam Spencer is probably the best per game producer if Ja Morant gets traded, if Scottie Pippen doesn't get healthy, and we don't know Ty Jerome's coming back. And then Reed Shepherd is my favorite player of the three, and I think he's the best player of the three, but he's just not going to get the usage and opportunity that he needs to get to be a superstar fantasy player in Houston this season. So all of that said, Cam Spencer is a huge hammer for me. You said no positive news on Ty Jerome. I could probably spin that in this negative news about all these other guys is probably some positive news that he wasn't included in that list. Does that make sense? Like Ty Jerome not being ruled out for the next month is probably nice. But we still don't know when he's coming back. So yeah. And even if Ty Jerome comes back, he's going to have to take that spot away from Cam Spencer with how good Spencer's playing right now, in my opinion.
So we've got about probably like 42 or 43 games left for the Hawks. If I set the over-under on 19.5 games played for Trae Young between now and the end of the season, which would you take?
For the Wizards?
Yes. Sorry. Trae Young, Wizards. Does he play over or under 19.5 games between now and the end of the season with about 42 games left? So that's less than half.
So that's like 4 weeks of games, basically. I would say over.
Under.
Okay.
If you drop that line to 15.5, I'd still take the under.
Really?
I don't think he's gonna play until the All-Star break. I think he comes back after the All-Star break. He plays maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3, and then once the beginning of March rolls around, he's done. Right. I don't think he's gonna play much. I have him in a league where I can make trades. I'm trying like crazy. I tried pairing him with something to get Stephon Castle. I got shot down. I'm trying all different kinds of things. This sounds ridiculous. I would rather have Cam Spencer than Trae Young from now to the end of the season.
Yeah,
I just would.
I mean, I said over, but that's kind of I would probably it depends on how much I have at stake in the league or how much, right? So like if it's one of those leagues where I'm like I have a lot of my reputation is on the line, I'm probably dropping Trae Young and I'm going to go out and I'm going to be proactive and I'm going to make moves, right? If it's one of the leagues where I'm just like, hey, we'll like, I don't want to be super hasty. I'm in a dozen fantasy leagues, so it's kind of hard to manage all of them and be super active in all of them. So if I'm playing it safe, I'm just going to be like, he'll come back eventually. And you don't want to drop him and be the guy that drops Trae Young. And then whoever wins the championship picks up Trae Young and he plays in the championship. Right. So I think I always say availability is the best ability. Right. So yes, I probably would rather have Cam Spencer than Trae Young.
All right. Before we take a few questions from the chat, A word from our friends at Sling TV. Tired of paying for live TV you don't watch? With Sling, you can get all the live sports, news, and entertainment you want, only when you want it. Get your hands on a Sling 1-day, 3-day, or 7-day pass, starting at just $4.99. Get over 30 of your favorite channels for the best price and stop overpaying for full-time live TV plans. Sling has a pass for any occasion. Big game tonight? Grab a 1-day pass for just $4.99. Want a full week of live TV for one low price? Get a 7-day pass. And for all those weekend watchers out there, you can enjoy live sports, news, and entertainment from Friday morning to Sunday night with a 3-day pass. Only Slings lets you watch when you want, so you only pay for what you watch. Get live TV for the day, week, or weekend, your choice, all for a great price. Watch live TV on your terms, starting at just $4.99. Sling lets you do that. Use the link below to sign up today. All right, Kirien, before we get to the best segment in all of the podcasting universe, let's take a few questions from the chat.
All righty. Wemby off the top says, hey, guys, if you need to drop 2 between Koulibaly, Keyshawn George, Doyman, Malik Monk, Musa, I'm assuming Diabate or Jalen Smith when Giddey and Edie comes back. Which two?
Let's drop one now. Let's just talk about one because Edie himself is the drop, Wemby.
Yeah. This comment was at 6:30 a.m. Central Time over here in Wisconsin.
Wemby, thank you for being on this early. We appreciate it. So, Kirien, which one guy would you drop?
Yeah, I think it's probably got to be Malik Monk. I really like I love Monk. You just don't know. He's not going to play in Sacramento. The only reason he's playing right now is because Dennis Schroeder is suspended. And if he gets traded, he's going to be, playing a Tim Hardaway role, right? And so, yeah, I think it's got to be Monk here.
I agree. The Zach Collins thing, I talked about him last week. I was pumping him up about a stash. Well, guess what? I should bad on my part, a big guy with a toe injury. Now he's in a walking boot and he's out indefinitely. So Jalen Smith here has a clear pass. He's definitely not someone I would want to drop. So Monk would be my choice here too.
Yeah. Diabate maybe if Kalkbrenner starts. Kalkbrenner started the second half of the last game, so we'll see where
but
that.
Diabate can give you 8 rebounds a night, even off the bench. So if you need rebounds, you still keep him.
He's still a hold for me for sure.
Yeah.
Good morning, guys. 10-team 9-cat are Shepard and Ware a hold the rest of season. All right, well, I'll let you go here first because these are 2 of my favorite players.
Shepard's tough because clearly, he shouldn't be coming off the bench behind Aaron Holiday, but clearly that's what the Rockets, him and what's the other guy that he's been? Oh, Coro. Yeah, he's been starting a Coro over him. I'm okay with dropping him and streaming. If you're in a 10-team league here, okay, that's the key. 12-team league, I'm not dropping him. 10-team, okay. Where I would rather hold, simply because I think his upside is much higher. He's got a clearer path to more minutes. I'd rather have Ware of the 2. But in a 10-team league, I guess what I'm saying is I'm not completely opposed to dropping both. But of the 2, I prefer Ware.
Yep. Totally agree. And 10-team league, you're probably dropping both. Like I said, 2 of my favorite players here. A crazy stat that I heard on the Zach Lowe podcast, Bam Adebayo had only assisted Khalil Ware on 1 play in the first 35 games or 40 games that they played each other. So they're
not a good fit.
No,
they're not.
And the only reason
Ware gets traded, but he's not.
And the only reason both of them were starting was because Hero's out, and now Hero's back. And so but like you said, I think Ware is more of a hold than Shepard at this point, just because of the higher upside.
Don't you think Ware is probably the guy they're holding for the next superstar that wants to end up in Miami? He's the guy that you build the trade around. Is Ware. Totally agree.
Which I don't know if I would trade Khalil Ware in a package to get John Morant, but
I wouldn't. I wouldn't. Please send Khalil Ware to the Bulls for whatever you want who is not named Josh Giddey or Buzelis. Yeah. Any guy on the team. Yeah. You want 5 guys from the team? Take all 5. That's fine.
I would love Khalil Ware. Give some intensity down low. Jackson Campbell says, thoughts on a Ty Jerome ad today. So we talked about Ty Jerome a little bit. Yeah, he wasn't included in that list of names that's going to miss extended time, but we still don't know when he's going to be back. It's the Cam Spencer show right now. So yeah, Ty Jerome leave him on the waiver wire for now. Is 10-team 9-cat P-Dub says, is Tari Eason worth a hold? What are your thoughts on Tari Eason, Mike?
Oh, he's frustrating. I have him in the league, a very important league, the FSGA Champions League, and he just can't stay healthy. When he's on the floor, he's very good, but he just can't stay healthy. 10 team league here. I'm okay with dropping him from some. Like, if you asked, would you drop Eason for Peyton Watson? Because in a 10 team league, he might still be available. Yes, I would do that.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Totally agree with that. Eason was starting and playing pretty good, pretty well.
Great.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I 10 teams. I don't think you have to hold them. So Wemby finally got the news at 9:30 Central over here in Wisconsin. Zach Edey out. Is it Jock Landale time? Yeah, we talked about Jock Landale, Santi Aldama. Definitely, good players that should be on fantasy radars. Are you must roster Jock Landale?
No, not must roster. He's fine if you need a center, but he's not a must roster because Aldama and Jackson are still in the mix. Now, if you're telling me that Jaren Jackson Jr. gets hurt or he gets rested down the stretch, then yeah, you want Landale for sure. But right now, he's not a must roster for me.
Yeah, and just a couple of concerns about Landale. Not much defensive production, right? Yep. And sporadic offensive production. You have last 6 games, 14-5, 13-10, 19-9, 13-10, 16-9, and then a scoreless outing, right? So there are some.
You're going to ride the roller coaster.
Yeah, but definitely needs to be on radars. Alan says, is Jeremy Grant a hold? 9 cat head-to-head. Alan, welcome to the show.
Now, Alan, it's not March yet, so he's still contractually obligated to play. As we know with Jeremy Grant, once the calendar flips to March, he doesn't play. Yeah. No, you don't hold Jeremy Grant. You just drop him and get. I mean, he's been good. Don't get me wrong. He's been good this season. But asking Jeremy Grant to stay healthy over the course of a season or play in March or April is not something I want to rely on.
Yep, totally agree, Mike. And like we've talked about Jeremy Grant plenty of times. And even though he was playing well to begin the season, if he comes back, now you have Drew Holiday, Shaden Sharp, Deni Avdija, Toumani Camara, Donovan Klingland.
Love has played really good, and I'm sure he's more in their long-term plans than Grant is.
Absolutely. Jackson Campbell says, why can't the Pistons just give Ivy 25 minutes a game? I concur.
Is that your burner account, Kirien? Is that you? Is that you? Kirien was quiet for a minute and he was typing something.
I'm outed, Jackson. Yeah, I'm wondering the same thing, man. Even when Cade was out, it was hard for Ivy to be productive.
Let's do 2 more questions, Kirien.
CY thus says, who to drop, Day'Ron Sharpe, Landale, or Diabate? Thanks. Yeah, I think Day'Ron Sharpe is going to be my answer here. I know the per minute production, and I know he's been producing pretty well off the bench recently, had the double-double, but that's not consistent. I don't expect that to happen. Diabate, maybe Kalkbrenner comes back and Diabate moves to the bench, and then maybe it's Diabate. But we don't know if Kalkbrenner is going to be 100% coming back. I just said he started the second half of their last game. Maybe he starts tonight. Maybe he's still limited. So I think it's got to be Sharp. What about you?
Agreed. I don't like to have guys in the nets in general. So that's my tiebreaker.
All right. One more here says, is Yegor Doyman a hold 10-team category leagues? Are you holding Yegor?
No. I think he's a fine streamer. The problem is he's not going to really excel. I mean, he's doing great for threes. But other than that, like, is there any one category where you're like, man, he's really carrying my team? No, not really. And there's a lot of guys on waivers that can get you 3-pointers. So if you are in a situation where the Nets don't have a favorable schedule and you're playing a weekly format and you need a guy that's playing 4 times as opposed to the Nets playing 2, then yeah, I would drop him and stream that spot. I'm okay with that.
Yep, totally agree. And in category leagues, rookies are really hard to trust because they can have the 2 for 15 shooting performance that just tanks your field goal percentage.
Exactly. Everyone, thank you for the questions this week. We really appreciate it. And now it's time for the What Was That stat lines of the week. Kirien, you are up first.
All right, Bulls Minute here. We talked about Jalen Smith and Zach Collins a little bit. Last night, Trey Jones, career high 34 points, 11 for 12 from the field, 5 for 6 from deep, 7 for 8 from the free throw line, 34 points in only 27 minutes, Mike. Taking advantage of Josh Giddey being out. However, the biggest what was that part of this stat line to me, the Bulls lose by 6. Their leading scorer on the night only plays 27 minutes. 34 points in 27 minutes. What was that in a loss? Come on, Bulls. Come on.
That is the Bulls in a nutshell. But don't worry, Kirien. I'm sure they'll hold on to Trey Jones through the trade deadline. and they'll give up a guy like Ayo Dosunmu, who should be on the team for the next 10 years. But don't worry, Trey Jones will be on the Bulls past the trade deadline. What was that stat lines of the week? Colin Murray Boyles on January 11th had 17 points, 15 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, and 3 blocks. He played 42 minutes against the 76ers. The Raptors won the game in overtime despite Brandon Ingram and Jakob Poeltl being out. Murray Boyles has started 6 straight games. During that span, he averaged 10.5 points, 8.2 rebounds, 3.7 assists, 2 steals, and a block. And wait, the Raptors are 7-3 in games that he has started this season. Now, Jakob Poeltl can't stay healthy. I'm not sure if the Raptors, they probably would like to trade him if they could. Colin Murray Boyles, 17 and 15 with defensive stats. What was that? That is a potential fantasy future superstar, Kirien.
Totally agree. I've tried to pump my brakes on this take for so long, but this 2025 NBA draft class might be one of the greatest draft classes.
It's really good, especially for fantasy. I mean, there's so many guys that can do so many different things.
Yeah, totally. Especially for fantasy and obviously real world too. Cooper Flagg hasn't quite, won a bunch of games yet. VJ Edgecombe is helping his team win games for sure though. Con Knipple, Derek Queen, Colin Murray Boyles. It's incredible. And Jeremiah Fears, it just goes on and on. And you can even talk about some of the guys in Boston. Hugo Gonzalez has played pretty well.
Noah Essengate? Oh no, wait. Sorry. The Bulls. No, sorry. The Bulls messed up on that one, right? Oh wait, he's out for the season? Oh yeah, he's out for the season.
It would be the most Bulls move ever to have a guy that doesn't play at all during his rookie season and turns out to be a dud in one of the greatest draft classes in the history of the NBA. But yes,
he's no Dalen Terry. He's no Dalen Terry. And with that is the end of today's RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Sling TV. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Remember, use promo code YouTube15 for 15% off any subscription on rotowire.com. Thank you for joining us today. And until next week, let's finally somebody please stay healthy for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a good one, everybody. Good luck.